Hey, how's it going? This is Brent. It's been a long, busy week, but I wanted to get back and do some more tutorials. And so in this tutorial, I want to show you how to use an existing ActionScript native extension. So you remember last week they announced at Adobe the Air 3.0 SDK and the ability to create native extensions to do more features that aren't already in Air. So what I want to do is take an existing ActionScript native extension and show you how to use that within Flash Builder 4.5, specifically how you can work with the Android and iOS and really compile with Flash Builder 4.5 to use these cool new ActionScript native extensions. The next tutorials in a little bit, I got a few more coming. I will show you how to create your own ActionScript native extensions, so stay tuned for that. See ya. Here is the website that we can find some native extensions that Adobe has created, as well as a few that have been created by the community. So hopefully this will be updated as you come back to this page often to see the things that have been released. So here we are. You can look at that web page. Just search for native extensions for Adobe Air and you'll find this page. So the one I want to show you is the vibration. So go ahead and click that. And here we're going to download the zip file. Feel free to go through and read this information here. But once you've downloaded it, then we're going to go to a folder. This folder here contains a number of things. One is this vibration zip that I've unzipped, which then has the following files. And the one we're going to use is this ready to use extension. Now the other things that I have in this folder, I have my Android cert and my iPhone cert and provisioning profile so that I can create apps. And the reason for it is because we also have to use the Air SDK. When you're building with native extensions in Flash Builder 4.5.1, you don't have the ability to compile with the native extension. So you have to use the Air SDK. So that's why I have that copied over here. So let's switch over to Flash Builder and we're going to create a new project. I'm going to call this, we're going to go File, New. We're going to do a Flex Mobile project, just keep it simple. And I'm going to call this Vibration Example. Then I'm going to uncheck BlackBerry for now. We just want a blank template. We can do full screen. We don't want to orient, but we do want to scale. And as you can see here, it says finish, which is off screen, but you trust me. So this will create the new project. Now this assumes that you have already overlaid the Air 3.0 SDK. Now if you watch that tutorial, you notice that we have to do two things in order to make sure that it targets and builds for Air 3.0. So the thing we need to do first is double click the example app XML, make sure this is 3.0, which it is. The next thing is to right click on the project, go to Properties, and under Compiler, and again, this could be, if this was an ActionScript project, you would see ActionScript Compiler, but here we're a Flex Mobile. Within here, we need to add SWF version 13. And the reason for that is it sets the target for the compiler, so that's what we want. So go ahead and click OK, and it's going to update the settings, and everything's good. Now, go ahead and delete this BlackBerry tablet XML. Unfortunately, this is a defect that's still in 4.5.1. I've been told they're working on it. We do want to delete it. Okay, so at this point, we've got the project ready to target Air 3.0. Now, we need to reference the ActionScript native extension. So to do that, go to Project, and I'll just go here, Project, choose Properties, and this is under the build path, and what we're going to do is add a SWIC. And we're going to browse to the SWIC. Now, this has a bunch of information. Here's my folder. Here's the vibration folder that we downloaded. Here's the deliverables, and here's the ready-to-use extension. Now, here's the tricky part, and I know you'll run into problems, but just trust me on this. Down here, where it has type, switch this to the all, to a not, to all files. And the reason for that is we want to come over here and we want to select this .ane file. So go ahead and click open. So what we've done is added the .ane file. See that? Now we need to change this. Let's go ahead and click edit, and we want to change this to external because we're not packaging the ANE with it so much as we are referencing it and stuff like that. All right, so we've added that to the path, so go ahead and click OK. So now you see this, we've got this reference library. So now we have the ANE reference. Now, this is something I came across, and I looked in the documentation. I didn't see this, but I'm going to do this anyway because it worked for me. When I went to compile the app, or when I went to work with the app, for example, let's go ahead and jump in, and I'll show you what I'm talking about. Let's create a script block. Whoops, come on, give me the right script. There we go, that's the one I want. Okay, now we want to call a function once this is completed. So we're going to call this function init. It's not going to return anything. The reason for this, now we need to call, in here we want to do an application complete event, and we're going to call init. Okay, the reason we do that is we want to check for some things. First, in addition, here we want to add a variable that we're going to reference as the vibrate or vibration. Anyway, private var, we're going to call it vibrate, and it's of type vibration. Now, here's the problem. And do you see what the problem is? The problem is I don't have the code hinting, and it's not importing it properly. Now, let's fix this. Let's fix this. Go to the folder and go into the vibration, go into the ready-to-use extension, and click and drag this to the libs folder. Now, it's added it to the libs folder, and now we're going to get code hinting. Vibration, there we go. Look at that. That's what we want. And it adds the import statement for us. Okay. Again, we're doing this because right now we're using Flash Builder 4.5.1, and we have overlaid the Air 3.0 SDK. Now, there is a beta, a pre-release of Flash Builder 4.6, which you can get a hold of, and I'll post the link up here. Flash Builder 4.6 has all of this built in, so you don't have to go through all these steps. But since you're wanting to jump in right now, I want to show you how to do it, so we have to kind of jump through these hoops. Okay, so we've got this imported. We've got the Vibrate object. Now the first thing we need to do, and this is something to remember whenever you're working with an API, especially a device mobile API, you always want to check to see if it is supported. So the way we do that is we're going to do a check. I'm going to say if, and then we're going to call the class, vibration class, if vibration dot is supported, then we're going to go on and I'm going to call setup buttons, and I'll show you what I'm talking about here in a minute. Else, if it's not supported, then you need to do something else. Right now I'm just going to say vibration is not supported. Okay, so vibration not supported. Okay, now we need to create this function, setup buttons. Private function setup buttons. And here we're going to add some event listeners to some buttons. We're going to set up the vibration call and stuff like that. Okay, so let's switch over to design real quick. And since I'm using a basic application, come on computer, you can do it. There we go. Right now I'm going to target something like a Droid 2 or something. Anyway, let's just add some buttons here. Click and drag it to the stage. Let's add 3 buttons. And I want to give these names. I'm going to call this one, let's call this 300 milliseconds. Let's call this one 500 milliseconds. We're going to call this one 1000 milliseconds, which is 1 second, right? So the way this works, now I need to reference these. I need to give them an ID. So I'm going to say button 1, button 2. Notice I'm clicking and selecting the buttons. Button 3. Okay, now switch over to source view. Make sure you're saving this. Come on, there we go. Okay. So notice we have these buttons with IDs and labels. Now, what I'm doing is I'm going to add event listeners to them. You could do this however you want. I mean, you could obviously add click events within the button tag, but I'm assuming, you know, we're going to try to do something that if you don't have vibration supported, then you obviously don't want to show those buttons, right? So you want to do something else. Anyway, just for example, we're going to say button1.add event listener, and we're just going to go with a mouse click. It's all the same. And we're going to say handle buttons. We're going to do the same thing to our other buttons. Mouse click, handle buttons. You all know what this is about. This is just a real simple code. Okay, one other thing we want to do once we've set up the buttons is we want to create the Vibrate object so that then we can call it and make the vibration occur. So we're going to say Vibrate equals new vibration. Okay, and that's it. Okay, let's create this other function, private function handle buttons, and it's going to get an event, mouse event. It's not going to return anything, and here we are. Now, since we're all calling the same method, what I want to do is check the ID of whichever button. So I'm just going to make a simple switch statement, and I'm going to say switch. Whoops, come on, Brett, you know better. Hold on. I'm on there. I got it. Why am I drawing a blank? Switch event dot current target dot ID, right? Case. And if it is button 1, then we're going to do something. Let me set up these cases here first. Button 2, whoops. Now you can do this however you want. I'm just pulling this out of my hat here. So yeah. Case button 3, So based on whether it's a button, we're going to say now we're going to call a method on this Vibrate object, Vibrate dot Vibrate. Come on. And then a duration. Well, guess what? Remember, if you look down here, let me give us a little more room. Look down here, we called these 300 milliseconds. So I want to say, hey, 300. And let's copy this. And copy this. And let's change it, right? So now we're going to do 500 milliseconds, and we're going to do 1,000. Okay. This code can be used for Android or iOS. If you look at the web page, though, you're going to see some information here. It says, if you scroll down, it says, by the way, add a permission for Android, and I'll do that here in a second. The other thing is, too, notice here it says iOS, the value passed to Vibrate is ignored. The device vibrates for a duration determined by iOS. So keep that in mind. So on Android, you can set a length, but on iOS, you can't. So you basically are just calling the Vibrate on iOS. Okay, it talks about uses permission. Let's do that. Go ahead and copy this since we're here. Go ahead and copy that. Switch back over. And we're putting this within the app XML. So while we're looking at this, let's go ahead and fix a few things. Let's call this version 1. Let me give this an ID so that it works when I compile it for iOS. And what else? What else? Okay, let's go down to permissions, kind of going quickly. We have permissions. All right, here we have to add this permission within. So paste that. So we've added this permission so that the Android device knows when it installs the app that it says, hey, we're going to use the Vibrate function, and they have to give permission for that. Okay, so go ahead and save this. And there is one more thing, and it's, of course, it's related to this idea of packaging and referencing the extension. Let's go back to the web page and see if I wonder if it mentions it here. Nope. I can understand why it's confusing, because it's confusing. One thing we need to do is we need to click over. Let me back up, because I'm back at this main page. You're going to want to get to know this using native extensions. So right click, I want to open this in a new tab, because this has information that you're going to be kicking yourself and be like, why isn't it working? And it's going to be all right here. All of the information is right here. So using the A&E file with Flash Builder, this is all the steps we went through, except I added my own step, which was to include the SWIC in addition to the A&E so that we get code hinting and the compiler won't complain. I'll cover Flash Professional in another tutorial. But then we talk about packaging. And let's see, where is it? Wait, sorry, I'm kind of making people dizzy. Oh, here it is. Declaring the extension in your application descriptor file. This has to be in your app descriptor file, or else it won't compile with the extension. And notice it says extensions and then extension ID, and then it has the reference. Now, check this out. Go back to the folder. Notice right here inside ready to use extension, notice it says extension ID. Guess what that is? That is the value you need to use within the extension ID tag. Okay, it's good to know. So when you make your own extensions, make sure you let people know what the ID is. Okay, switch over to Flash Builder. Now, here I am within the main part of the descriptor, and I'm going to add extensions. And I'm going to add extension ID, and then I'm going to paste. Look at that, look at that. Go ahead and save that. Okay, now what we have is completed the files that we need. We've completed the code. Remember, Flash Builder 4.5.1 does not let you compile for the app. You have to compile using the Air SDK, and I'll show you how to do that in the next tutorial that says how to compile. For now, what happens is make sure the app has been compiled already, and if you have build automatically checked, then it's already built. And what we're doing is we're going to pull, we're going to ignore that. In fact, let's do this. Let's do a clean project, clean, and let's clean this project. Okay, there we go. Now in this bin debug folder, we're going to copy out these two files, and I'll reference these when we get there. But if you use Flash Builder or Flash Professional, either way you end up with a SWF and an app XML file. Those are the two files you need, along with some other stuff. But when we get to that, how to compile it with the command line, you're going to copy these two files into your folder. All right, so we're going to stop and we're going to go and show you how to compile using the command line.